Hi everyone. Now we are going to discuss about the topic of de Broglie matter waves and then absence of matter waves in the macroscopic world. By following that, we are just going to discuss about the topic of Davison's and Germer's experiment on diffraction of electrons. So we already known well, according to de Broglie, a moving particle whatsoever its nature have associated with the wave to be named as matter waves. So de Broglie proposed that the wavelength is associated with any moving particle have momentum p, and then the wavelength of the particle which is associated with the particle of mass m will be equal to h by p, where p represents momentum of the particle, so it will be equal to mv. Such waves associated with the matter particles are called matter waves or de Broglie waves. So Bohr's theory of the hydrogen atom led de Broglie to the conception of matter waves. So according to Bohr's theory, the stable states of electrons in the atom are governed by the integer rules. So you already known well regarding the analysis of energy of the electron in an orbit. So we are just working with the term minus 13.2 divided by n squared. Otherwise, if we are saying about the case how much number of electrons are allowed in an every orbit by Pauli's exclusion principle, we are saying this 2n squared formula. So where n represents integers. So the only phenomena which is involving integers in physics are those of interference and modes of vibrations of stretched strings. Both of these imply with wave motion. Hence, de Broglie thought that electrons may also be characterized by a periodicity. By means, he expected that each and every particle, even an electron, is associated with a wave to be named as a matter wave. So regarding the de Broglie wavelength, we already told you that if you say a particle of mass m, definitely it has its own momentum. So with respect to the momentum, it has its own wavelength. So the photon of light frequency nu has a momentum of p equal to h nu by c. We already know c equal to nu into lambda, frequency into the wavelength, product of frequency and wavelength. So the momentum of the photon can be expressed in terms of lambda as p equal to h by lambda. By following up that relation, we can write lambda representing wavelength of the matter wave will be equal to h by p. So de Broglie suggested that the above equation regarding lambda equal to h by p is completely a general one which may be applied to material particles as well as light particles like photons. So in general we say lambda equal to h by mv. Instead of we are replacing the term p, momentum as mass into velocity, we say it is linear momentum. If suppose we are just thinking about the case of we want to change the equation of wavelength of any particles with respect to its kinetic energy, and then you say momentum p will be equal to root of 2me. So if I substitute the same values in lambda in the general de Broglie's equation for wavelength lambda equal to h by mv, I can get lambda will be equal to h divided by root of 2me. So this is one form of de Broglie's wavelength which is related to kinetic energy of the particle. You just think about the one more option regarding if a charged particle carrying a charge q is accelerated through a potential difference of v, then the kinetic energy of the particle will be equal to E will be equal to q into v. So now you substitute the term instead of E, then you can get the final equation of wavelength of the de Broglie wave will be h divided by root of 2m and q into v. So this one represents the different forms of de Broglie wavelength. Now we are going to the significance of de Broglie waves. We are just going to discuss about it. We already said about each and every particle is associated with wave. So we already known well, if you are accepting quantum mechanics, we should accept that each and everybody, say a particle having mass m, definitely have its own momentum. With respect to the momentum, it have its own wavelength. So that's called as matter waves or de Broglie waves. But it was noticed that in the macroscopic world we couldn't observe the concept of matter waves, otherwise we couldn't see a particle is moving like a wave. So why it is? So it is the concept of explanation is given as below. You just notice that the macroscopic particles have larger in mass. So you know well the formula of de Broglie wavelength will be equal to h by mv. So mass is inversely proportional to the wavelength. So whenever you say the case where mass is increasing, the wavelength related to the particle or the wavelength associated with the particle will be get lenient by means of very low. By means of that, if we are just going with the case of an example, you just consider a golf ball of mass of 45 grams moving with a velocity of 30 meters per second. Because of the velocity of the ball is much lower than the velocity of light c, then you say m will be equal to m naught, both are same, it is equal to 45 grams. And then when we calculate the wavelength of de Broglie wave, you just notice that the wavelength or the wave associated with the golf ball of mass 45 gram will be equal to 4.9 into 10 power minus 34 meter. You know well the wavelength which is associated with the golf ball is much lower than what we are expected. So it is very low while comparing with the size of the ball. That's why we cannot detect any wave aspect in its motion. So that's the reason why we do not detect the wave nature in any macroscopic particle. So that is the real reason why we feel absence of matter waves in macroscopic world. So if you just extend the clarification regarding the absence of matter waves, we can say in the macroscopic object, each particle's wave is being observed or combined with the waves of the other particles to create one wave for the entire object. So since this object is able to see, then the wave function immediately collapses. So any time you possess any kind of information about the world around us, somewhere some wave function collapses. So in short, if we can see the object, then you say there is no more wave function is there. So in short, we say you do see this activity everywhere non-locally. So if we want to see the matter waves, we should work on non-local manner. You just fail to realize it because of you cannot see particles with your naked eye. So that is the real reason why we couldn't observe the matter waves related or associated with any particles. If the observation is non-local, if you just think about case, if you think about the mass in macroscopic order more than micrometers, and so we couldn't easily observe the wave function associated with the particle because of the shorter wavelength of the matter waves. Whereas if you consider the particle of size which is much lower like electron, proton and neutron, because of the lowest mass the wavelength is somewhat higher, then we can see the case by non-local manner you can witness the wave function. So this is the concept of why we are feeling absence of matter waves for the macroscopic world. Now we are going to the next topic regarding the experimental proof of matter waves. So in physics we already known well, some people will do hypothesis. So likewise de Broglie proposed a theory regarding matter waves, but by function it got experimentally proved by several experiments. Out of that, Davison and German experiment is the most important one. So now we notice the experimental arrangement which is utilized by Davison and German for the analysis of the wavelength of the electron. So you know well, electron is a particle. So whenever you start saying about the wavelength of electron is related to the matter waves. Okay, right? So you just find that we have a low tension battery is there. By low tension it is connected with the filament. So whenever you are applying the potential in low tension, by means the filament start heating up, by means of that it start emitting of electrons. So the electrons are may converge or become narrow because of thin aluminum diaphragms are closer to it, and then it is just accelerated towards the crystal, which is useful to determine the instant energy of the instant electron by using of high tension potential. So just notice here, to accelerate the electrons, it is given, the aluminum cylinder is given with high positive potential. Okay, right? So in this case, the electrons may be focused towards the crystal by using of this electron beam gun setup, and then the electrons are started. What you know well, it's a crystalline material, have even and periodic arrangement of atoms, so you have layer by layer structure. So we say the distance between the two layer arrangement will be equal to interplanar spacing values. So whenever the high energy electron beams are to be incident on the planes with respect to the say about scattering, we have the intensity will be vary. So a detector can move back and forth with an angle of theta to find out the intensity of the electron beam. So the energy of the electron in the primary beam, the angle at which the reach the target, and then the position of the detector. So all these three things are measured or varied to analyze the wavelength of the electron. So regarding the experimental procedure, we just find we have an accelerating potential V is given as a low value at the initial stage. So now the beam of electrons falls normally on the surface of the crystal. So the detector is moved towards various positions and the intensity of the diffracted beam at each position is noted off. The intensity of the diffracted beam is plotted against the angle between the incident beam and the beam entering the detector. So the method of plotting is such that intensity at an angle is proportional to the distance of the curve at that angle from the point of scattering. And so the observations are repeated for different accelerating voltages and the number of curves are drawn. So by using of this method, we are just going to verify the wavelength of the electron. Okay, so now you notice there is a difference of graphs are given regarding the intensity of the incident beam with respect to the angle of scattering angle. You just find here it's a polar graph. So with respect to the accelerating potential, you got a plot like this. You just notice till 44 volt the graph is remains is about nearly fair enough and good or smooth, whereas by 44 volt, because here we are using of nickel crystal for scattering of the electron beam, for nickel by 44 volt you just find that there is a bump appears on the curve here. So actually we have to say it is a lump. Instead of the word, it is bulgy in nature, so it is to be named as bump. So as the accelerated voltage is increasing, you will just notice that the length of the bump goes on increasing. Just notice here between 48 and 54 there is a further increasing of the bump. But you just notice that the bump become the most prominent in the curve for the accelerating voltage of 54 volt with an angle of 50 degree. Okay, right? So further, if you increasing of the accelerating potential, it was noticed that the bump size will be decreased, and by 68 volt it totally disappears. So this is the experimental observation what we noticed while we are using of nickel crystal for scattering of the electron beam, and we are just supported with the accelerating potential of 40 volt to 68 volt. Okay, so now we are start calculating the wavelength of the electron beam which is diffracted by the crystal. We already known well for crystals the interplanar spacing value is to be around 0.091 nanometers, otherwise you say it is 0.9 Armstrong unit. So we already known that by 50 degree of angle of incidence we are getting of very good activity of say about increasing potential of increasing intensity of the electron beam. So by means of the angle of incidence related to the family of Bragg law will be calculated as theta is just fine. It is a normal here. From this angle to this one is totally 180 degree. So we known well 180 minus 50 is the angle of incidence with respect to the projection of electron over the crystalline plane. So we got the final angle of incidence will be equal to 65 degree. So because the plane will be like this, it's not straight, it's not linear, it is on curved one. So with respect to that only we are doing up this calculation. So by using up the Bragg's law, 2d sine wave at n lambda, we are going to calculate the wavelength of the electron beam. Lambda will be equal to 2d times of sine theta. Here d is the interplanar spacing values, which is already calculated by using of X-ray diffraction technique. It is around 0.91 Armstrong unit. And then in known well, with respect to the condition of the maximum intensity, as per our experimental procedure, it is, we say a pi equal to 50 degree means the angle of incidence theta will be equal to 65 degree. So by substituting all these values, we got the value of wavelength of the electron beam what is observed from the experimental will be equal to 0.165 nanometers, otherwise it will be equal to 1.65 Armstrong unit. Okay. So now we are just going to determine by using up the de Broglie's equation. We already known well that electron have its own kinetic energy accelerated towards the crystal by applying of accelerating potential is equal to 54 electron volt. So now we have the formula regarding the analysis of wavelength with respect to kinetic energy. It is equal to h divided by root of 2m E, otherwise we say it is 2m ke. Ke represents kinetic energy. If we substitute all the values of h, m is the mass of the electron, h is Planck's constant, m is the mass of the electron, and k is the kinetic energy, and then to be multiplied by, if we want to get the final values in electron volt, because that is a SI unit, so you have to multiply it by 1.6, the charge of electron, 1.6 in 10 power minus 19 joule per electron volt. So once you substitute all these values, you got the final value of the wavelength of the electron beam, as we calculated using of de Broglie's equation will be equal to 0.166 nanometers, otherwise it is equal to 1.66 Armstrong unit. So the observed wavelength agrees well with the expected wavelengths. Hence the Davison's and Germer experiment directly verifies de Broglie's hypothesis of wave nature of moving bodies. So we already said about de Broglie proposed de Broglie's hypothesis. So we known well in physics hypothesis is to be just a simple proposal without any experimental proof to be named as hypothesis, whereas regarding de Broglie waves, it was experimentally proved by certain experiments regarding that their hypothesis, de Broglie's hypothesis, the correct one. So that is the experimental proof what we studied regarding the matter waves. Okay, I think you understand the topic well. We'll meet you soon with the next topic. Thank you.